Get this meeting started with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance
flag
to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Shirley, would you like to roll call, please?
I have taken roll. Everybody is present, but Chuck Davis, he will be absent tonight, and you do have a quorum.
Okay. And next item is the consent agenda. Everyone had an opportunity to look at the last minutes from August 9th. Any issues?
Move for approval.
Got a motion?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Next will be item 4, old business, a Greenfield Pond on Track A P District Plan Amendment. David?
Yeah, I'll give some brief comments to this, GJM Development, who's in the audience here tonight, represented by Jerry Seiler, and he's got a couple of the others with him. Proposed to install new pond on Tract A in the Meadows of Greenfield, north of Old Trail Run, east of Greenfield Point Villas, and then west of, I can't remember the street name, Prairie Creek Drive, which is the first phase of the development. This was brought to the Planning and Zoning Commission last month. We had a public hearing at that time, and the Planning and Zoning Commission wanted to hear from our engineer. There was a stormwater study and some pond plans that were submitted to the engineer for review, and P&Z wanted to know what the engineer's comments were in relation to those plans. There was, I think, some comments that were addressed, resubmitted, and then the most recent comments were included in the staff memo that went out as part of this packet. The city engineer reviewed the stormwater study and those plans and commented that the pond would reduce the maximum water surface elevation and peak flow post-development discharge rates from the existing detention basin, Pond 2. Therefore, they support the addition of Pond 3A to the development if approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission. They had a few other minor comments. One, ensure tow walls installed at the end section, which showed up on the street and stormwater study plans. I think that was maybe a reference to the stormwater construction. And then correcting a table that was in the plans, and that can be done as part of an as-built. It wasn't, they were able to understand what the submittal was about in reference to that. If the P&Z were to approve the proposed plan amendment tonight, staff recommends the following conditions: that there be approval of plans and report by the city engineer. Again, they do have a couple of extra comments we want to make sure that we get addressed, and then develop the project in compliance with all city codes, conditions, requirements, plans, and payment of fees and taxes, which is a standard condition we include. This application will be scheduled for Board of Aldermen next Monday night. It is also going to be a public hearing at that night. At their last meeting, I guess it would have been August 16th, they tabled without having that public hearing, so they'll open that up next month for additional comment. Again, as I mentioned, Jerry Seiler's in the audience. He's got Julie, their engineer, and then Garrett Seiler, who's his son and partner, and he was at the meeting last month as well.
Okay, thanks, David. Question I have, what is it currently zoned?
R1
Okay.
is zoned single family.
Okay.
I can move to a map or anything if the Planning and Zoning Commission would like to.
I need to see it.
Sorry, or we can go to Google Earth. We can
I don't
go to
think
Google
anybody
Earth
needs to
too.
see
I've got the Google Earth map. Now, I'm not sharing this with the audience. This is just here in the room. So this is
Was that originally part of the green space?
yes, yeah, it is part of green space. Prairie Creek Drive runs north and south parallel to 33 Highway. Again, I mentioned earlier, that was the first phase of the development. Old Trail Run was phase 2 of Meadows at Greenfield. The proposed pond is in this location here. There's a drainage that comes through between the phases, comes down, to the south, and then continues south under Old Trail Run into, this would be what they call Pond 2 at the bottom. That pond's been there since the beginning. It's next to the lift station for Greenfield.
Is it constantly full? And two questions, is that one constantly full, and will this one feed that one?
Correct, yes. The pond, the lower pond is always, it holds water permanently. The proposed pond would be retention, so there would be a permanent, level of water in the pond. When it rains, you know, the elevation would increase, and then it would, drain out to the normal elevation.
Is the darker area, which is a dirt that's been moved into there,
Where at?
right there?
Right here?
Yeah, that's,
That looks more like a grassy area.
no, but it's a big mound of dirt.
Oh,
Has that altered the flow of the water from what it was originally? Anybody know?
No, well, it's a topsoil, we just made a berm there for wood.
Right,
And if you approved the pond, that'd have to go away.
I understand
So I
that.
can haul it out of there if you guys don't want it, I need the dirt anyway, so.
I understand that, but has it affected the water flow?
It's not really the water flow, it's the amount of water, and the stockpile of dirt isn't really affecting that. The amount of water that is flowing through the area is a real problem, that there's, back up at the, culvert going under the road to the current pond 2 that David was talking about, and that amount of water is backing up into all those homeowners' yards, they call it
Right.
their thing. It would not be, that pond, that stockpile would not be the culvert to that, because it's the water that's coming through that area. That stockpile may be making it take a little different path here and there, but that's not gonna change the amount of water that's going there.
Okay,
There's usually no standing water above in that area whenever.
right, it didn't look like it, I
Yeah,
didn't
it
think,
still
but
constantly flows out.
but I thought it could possibly direct it one direction or the other.
It does, but it all flows to that
It
one
comes back to
location,
the
yeah.
same
Yeah.
spot.
The bigger issue is the culvert at the bottom of the hill.
Okay.
And the, crossing under the road, and the amount of water that's backing up on that issue.
Now, you say it backs up down there. 20 years ago, none of those trees and none of that brush or anything was in there. And I was looking through the comments, and comments were made that slows the water down. Well, it seems to me like since if it went back to where it was originally, 20 or 25 years ago, the water would release quicker rather than backing up.
Well, it's a twofold thing. The brush that's out there now is kind of on the existing pond side. The big thing
Right.
is 20 years ago, it didn't have this level of development too. And as you
That's-
increase development, you increase runoff. And that's what we're trying to come in and put this pond in to help with the runoff in this area, because as you know, last time we were here, the homeowners, a lot of them stood there and talked about their yards, showed some videos too. But from our modeling and everything, we can see that water, and it's only gonna get worse as more things develop upstream of this watershed.
And to help you, if you take the trees out, it'll make the water run down faster until it hits the pipe, then it backs us up. Most of the homeowners want the trees left for privacy. So we said, hey, our engineer said it don't matter either way.
Okay,
If you like the trees, we leave the trees.
They're doing minimal,
So,
they're minimal in this situation,
Right.
the amount of water and the impacts to it.
okay,
They're really,
thank you.
welcome.
So, I guess my question is if it's the culvert where everything's backing up at, why aren't we fixing that culvert?
So,
Because if we put a pond in, and you yourself mentioned there's additional development and so on and so forth going on, 5 to 10 years, how do we know that that culvert's not still gonna be a problem?
so it's not that the culvert's undersized, the culvert is really decent size. The problem is the amount of water that is reaching the culvert and the timing of it, and it's all hitting it at the same time, and by putting in this pond, then you're slowing down your release rate, so that you're getting less water at that culvert at once, is what we're looking at. It's the release rate of it and how the water timing hits. So right now, it's sheet flowing down there, which is gonna be your fastest condition to reach there. But if you go put a pond in, it's gonna slow down the water, because you're gonna be releasing it at detention standards. So it's gonna take time to draw it down, the drawdown timing, and then it's not gonna hit that culvert at once. And those houses there are really the problem, is those homeowners are sitting very low to the culvert. Those homeowners' houses are sitting lower than that roadway, so it's about protecting them, too.
To maybe to help his question, behind phase two, there always been a big dirt pile. And then I made a big dirt pile. So the water from phase two never did go to that pond. It went through my bean field, and it's supposed to go to that pond. So now I have graded out level.
The lower pond is.
They're gonna put more water in the pond. Julie brought it up to the city engineer. We ain't done nothing with that pond, so I don't have to touch it. But to help the neighbors, I needed dirt. So Julie said, Jerry, we don't have to put no more water in the pond. And you're phase 7, 8, 9. So it's not our problem, but if you need dirt, I can solve the problem. I can put it in a retention basin. You need the dirt, that'll solve the problem. I have to haul the dirt in, I've been hauling dirt in every day. It's a washout for me, but it will help everybody if they put the retention in. They don't have to be put in, if the engineer is not needed. But the county, Julie can talk, they don't work.
The big thing is, we're trying to fix the homeowners' concerns. The homeowners are flooding back here, the existing homeowners. We've heard from a few of them, they get complaints. Some of them have said soggy yards. I know some of them are passionate either way on the pond, but the reason behind the pond is our models are showing that it's really a bad situation on these homes. And so by putting the pond, yes, Jerry benefits with the dirt, but it really solves the upstream issues. And it relieves the pressure that's gonna occur on the lower pond once the 8th flat, as these phases develop, on the one south by the lift station, because that pond is gonna see more than anticipated water, and it's gonna have performance issues, because there is no detention upstream of it, so the water is gonna be getting there too soon. So the reason of presenting this pond is to really try to help everyone out here. And it was shown on some early exhibits and things, but it was never built, it was waived, it wasn't there, the need wasn't there for one reason or the other, but it really does help satisfy the issues. And I think, as David said, what we got back from the city engineer is they did see the support on it. And at the culvert, it does reduce the water by 1/3. So that really helps relieve what these homeowners are seeing in their yards too. And their concerns they may be having, the one homeowner ended up having to have flood insurance because she was concerned about her house. And that's what we're trying to fix. But we don't have to fix it, but we're trying to, as a benefit.
And if we were to take, sir, you mentioned something about, mounds of dirt right there. If we were to basically just create a valley through there, you're still gonna have the same problem, because the flow rate is still gonna go all the way down to that culvert. What we're trying to do is retain it back, to hold it back, so. We can take minimal dirt out there to try to help it look good, but we're not gonna relieve any issues whatsoever, it's gonna continue to happen.
What about some of the other homeowners' concerns, like, the pond being a breeding ground for mosquitoes and, needing to have a second fountain in that one?
The fountains themselves does not help any insects or geese or anything like that. It basically just stirs it up to try to keep the moss and everything off of it. It's a good, it's not a nice little feature. We'd be fine putting that in there, but that's not gonna help any nature to get away from that area.
To help you with that question, it was at the council meeting when I did the other pond, it was a retention basin.
Mhm.
They're not pond, they're retention basin. I said, I was the fountain. 3 people spoke up and said, no, that costs us $100 a year to run it. We don't want it. And we're going, well, it's making it look pretty, you need a fountain, you know,
Yeah, and I have.
nobody really understands storm retention but Julie, and she does.
I believe her. I mean, it makes sense to me that if you store that water and let it out slower, I'm not arguing that point. I believe you, and I think it would be a benefit. But I also know at this meeting last month, we had homeowners that said, I don't want it in my backyard, even if it does help me. So that's where I am, is like, you know, I mean, we're talking about 5 or 6 people who it's gonna affect the most, who are telling us they don't want it. So that's where I'm struggling, because I do believe it's a benefit to the neighborhood as a whole. But,
If we were not able to put another pond in there, the mosquitoes, the geese, the snakes, everything, they're still gonna be there because
Sure.
of the lakes around the pond already. So, I mean, I live by a lake myself, I think it's a beautiful feature. It adds value to your property, it adds value to the community too. As long as the upkeep is maintained on it as well.
right,
One thing to remember, storm retention water gets worse, not better.
right.
We don't have to do nothing. If we don't put this in, and more water goes, and somebody gets flooded, they're gonna come back to you people at the city. Because they've been engineered before I bought it, they said it passed, they got a permit, and we can see by records that it's a problem.
Mhm.
But it's not a benefit to DJM development. My cost is the same if I hold the dirt in or I dig it. It's whatever you people want to do.
I think for me, so I also truly believe it would work, but this is an HOA, and right now it hasn't been given to the people, but the way an HOA works is that everyone gets, I mean, on these kind of things, the HOA would vote and decide what happens. And you said there's people that feel strongly on both sides. We haven't heard from I didn't hear from a single person last meeting that was like, I think this is great, let's solve it. It was like, do not put a pond in my backyard. And part of the reason you buy into an HOA is so that there's some control over what happens in your neighborhood and the houses around you and those sort of things. And that's sort of where my concern is. Because I agree, I completely believe it would at least help, at least in the short term. Because like you said, stormwater can just get worse, and so there's no knowing like 10 years from now. But if the problem is that spot where it's coming through, eventually that has to be addressed. You can maybe slow it down, but eventually, if that's where the problem is, I feel like is it not possible to fix that spot so it can take in more water?
The problem is the existing homes there. The existing homes were built in small houses, they're got lower elevation, they know what they should, I mean, and that's the problem, that the overflow path is not over the roadway in a safe condition, that those houses are built in a way that maybe should not have been, but, so us fixing the roadway to allow the path for the water release isn't gonna, the homes, so the option is the home issue.
See, the homeowners will never have $80,000 just in 10 years, they get flooded. They're gonna come back to the city and say, you let this get built in 2005, you created a problem. The homeowners is not gonna have the money. I mean,
Well, and Paula, too, to your point, I mean, yes, there has been 5 or 10 people that voiced their opinions. I run the HOA, and I hear a lot of people that don't wanna pay their dues because there's a pool in there. But, you know, the pool is a big asset to the community, and a lot of people use it. Half the people never use it, they don't wanna pay for it, but for the HOA, they have to pay for it. So, you do have a handful of people that don't like it, but the people who are not speaking out, they do enjoy it, they do like it.
they knew that pool was there when they purchased their property, and that's a really big difference between this pond that's gonna go right in their backyard.
Yeah, true, and also the other fund that we put in too, I know this for a fact, it added $5,000 to $10,000 of value to their property as a lot of people are selling, taking their profits and moving elsewhere too.
See, the other pond, nobody had a side,
Yeah.
because it was shown on the master for storm retention. I could put in 10 ponds the size of this building, a dry catch basin, or I could show that one big one. So it was already in there for storm retention. And that's how I wanted it to be done. Like we said, I got permit for phase 7. I ain't done nothing wrong up here, I didn't engineer it. Usually brought it to our attention, your engineer brought it to her attention too, and said, you guys, if you go upstream, you should. But both engineers said, we don't have to. It's up to you.
Let me ask a couple questions. So, David, the city's position on this was not recommendation. Is that still the position?
Well, that's what I didn't go through and change
Okay.
the recommendation, I just
Which,
provided an update.
I don't know, how long have I been on this board, Shirley? It seems like birth. But that's never happened before. I mean, it was never, we've never seen one that the city didn't recommend. So that's one. Have we heard from the citizens as with the new drawings, have their feelings changed at all? I haven't.
Well, we don't send out.
I know you don't, but you hear, and there's some here, and so I know there's no public comment here, so we don't, but I don't think that the feelings have changed. So as this stands, I don't know how we can go forward with it the way it is. But I wanna propose a, alternative, and you tell me why I'm wrong on this. I had to research detention ponds for another property here in town that was actually flat, and this one isn't. And I was told if I could find that it was done somewhere else in the country, that they would do that. Well, I found that they do it in Texas. And the way they do it is, and what we're trying to accomplish here is to keep these people from being flooded down here, and we want to hold back the water, right? Okay. So we all agree on that. In Texas, a lot of, especially around Houston, where they have all these huge rains, is they have a relief, but they have giant ponds, and they have a pump in the bottom of it. So when the water comes up, it starts releasing here, and of course, if you got a hurricane, well, it's going to go over the top anyway. But normal rain, it releases here, and then it goes down. And then after the event is over, well, then they turn the pumps on, and it pumps the water out of the pit. Now, the residents don't want a pond. They don't want to pay for a fountain. You have an opportunity here because of gravity. You could put the drain in the bottom, and I don't know what the diameters are, so I'm not going to say sizes. But why not put one in the bottom, let it release, start releasing some immediately, then maybe up a little further, you got another pipe, and then if you need a third, or if you just need the spillway for a very heavy thing. What that does is it solves releasing the water too fast, which floods down here at the bottom, and it gives you no pond after the event is over.
So you're talking about a dry detention basin.
I can't hear you.
You're talking about a dry detention basin instead.
Okay.
Anything around here also. Actually, we do them with flat bottoms, sloped bottoms, either one. And I guess I would say is we could look into that too. We started with the ponds because that's typically what the preference is. I would like to also say that we're here about the concept of stormwater management in this area. So if we could request for you guys to approve the concept of it or something tonight, we could go back and talk with what is best suited in that area too.
Yeah.
There is a different version of stormwater that can contain it. Most of the time, we find that people think it looks like a hole in the ground and prefer a wet pond. But in this situation, maybe the homeowners need something different.
Well, I'm just trying to solve everybody's problem here, and to me, that solves everybody's problem. But, that eliminates the pond, it eliminates the mosquitoes, it eliminates the fountain power that they don't wanna pay for. There is no ongoing expense other than mowing.
And another thing too, Ken, I mean, I think people are very concerned about maybe 5 or 10 people speaking up, and you guys do this all the time. There's always gonna be people that are gonna frown upon any new improvement whatsoever. I mean, if it would help, we'd be more than glad to sit out and vote on this. I'd be pretty confident it would pass, you know, for the backing of this to move forward. I mean, for the HOA, I mean, we just didn't see
Well-
what we could do.
And I'm completely against dry retention basins. I think Julie will speak up when I get done. That's the reason everybody going to lakes that look pretty. You cannot mow a dry retention basin.
Well,
It's allowed,
okay,
you get weeds in it, you get water spots, so you got weeds growing, you cannot maintain them. That's the reason I didn't put in the 10 little ones, it's just what you called about. Because like the engineer, it wasn't her, said, Jerry, they gonna be dry, you can't mow them because they hold water, they wet. If you mow them, you make a rut, so it holds water, mosquitoes, they said.
okay. I'm just trying to solve problems. If that won't solve the problem, then I think it's pretty clear which way we have to go, so.
Yeah, another thing too, Ken, I mean, I like your, alternate solution. The one thing is, people look at dry ponds is, like, I hear that, I think of Quick Trips. I mean, they're nice, they're sodded, they're irrigated, they're all, the HOA doesn't have the money to keep up a dry one. It makes sense, but a size like that, you're creating kind of a swampy ground around there. You're causing even more nature to creep in there and never be able to get it out.
Okay.
I like the idea though, I mean, it's an option.
I will say that at the Board of Aldermen, we opened a public hearing, we didn't close it, so we will be taking public comment. Regardless of what we do here, we'll be taking more public comment.
I think it's time to, let's do something and pass it on to the alderman.
So to clear it up, the city did not recommend approval.
In my original staff report, yeah.
Yeah, but since the city, when we last had the meeting, everyone wanted to find out by the city engineer to see what he thought about the solution of moving forward. During that time, Julie has talked to him, and he.
It's in the memo that we provided, but they did see benefit to it.
Yeah.
And David and me and Julie and them had a Zoom meeting on it. We didn't railroad them, they just.
Yeah, the board needed more clarification from your guys' engineer to get his input, and since then, we've had that.
If you voted down, there's no reason taking it to the council.
Oh, yeah, no, they vote us out all the time.
We'll just go on and haul in dirt and be done with it.
Yeah, we run unanimously against, and they've still passed them, so. Yeah, you definitely wanna keep going if you want it. But I mean, what we're presented here, I mean, we don't have, in my mind, I don't have any alternatives. Well, there was one, but you didn't like it, so.
Comments, questions? Entertain a motion?
Well, I'll do it, I guess. We'll move to, go with the, staff's recommendation of, recommending against this plan as shown.
A second.
Okay, I have a motion to disapprove and a second. So all those in favor of that would be against. would be, okay. Okay, so I have a motion against and a second against. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Okay. That was on. Okay. David, you can go to the, all right, next is the, item 4B, Kearney Public Works, Salt Barn Structure, CUP, and Site Plan. David?
Yeah, again, this was an item that was tabled from last meeting to tonight's meeting. Public Works Department's proposing to construct a 3,200 square foot salt storage building at our Public Works facility on 19th Street. We've got the big, long, north-south building. This will be just adjacent to it, behind that building, so on the east side. So on the east side of that building, Planning and Zoning last month tabled it for kind of two things. Wanted extra information on a landscape plan. We talked about having a landscape plan. We didn't have a plan with us. Actually, we talked about landscaping. P&Z wanted to see a plan, so we had that commissioned. I didn't have it before the packets went out. We did get it this evening, and so you guys, I see a few of you found that, and you're looking at that right now. And then the other, there was a question of whether there might be a better location on the property for the building. I want to maybe have comment on that first. Donnie Smith, there's our utility and street director. He wasn't in town at the last meeting. I've since talked to him, and he pointed out that if we move that building a little to the northwest, adjacent to the other, we've got a second garage building. It's a newer building. It was built probably within the last 5 years or so. Moving it and sliding it up and moving that adjacent to that building would prevent us from expanding that building in the future. The only way we can expand that garage building is on the east side. On the west side, we get into floodplain along the creek and the trail over there. And so they'd like to have that ability to widen that at some point in the future. City engineer also had some comments. They were all related to money reasons. So you move it north, longer driveway. You move it north, you've got more fill because there's drop off. I didn't add that in my little memo because, you know, it's just money, and is that always the best reason? The one that was presented was we thought the best option for the location of the building. As far as the landscape plan, you've got that in front of you. It's basically based on our landscape buffer requirements for when a non-residential development goes in adjacent to single-family residential development, what kind of buffering would be required. That's what this is based on. You'll see 35-foot wide, which is a standard width, and then a certain number of points of landscaping up along that. So, and you'll see there's a mix of deciduous trees, so pin oaks. There's different evergreen trees, some fir trees, which staff may talk to the engineer about doing a different type of tree because fir trees are, you know, Pacific Northwest. They don't do as well here. We want something that maybe is a little more native that can handle our weather better. But at least we have that in the plan as an evergreen type of tree. We would intend to install that. Then there's some, I would say, a couple flowering trees and some shrubbery type of plants as well. You'll see there's also a handout. I got an email from Kim Murphy, who is the HOA president. He couldn't come tonight because he's got a fire board meeting, but he's looked at the landscape plan and has talked with staff and appreciates our efforts to try and maybe modify the plan to try and come up with what we think is the best option. And then again, with the landscaping that they requested at the last meeting. Staff recommends approval of the request for conditional use permit and site plan for the building at 502 East 19th Street per the updated plan to add in the landscape plan as well. Again, staff may ask for a different type of tree that might be a little more suited to our area, but it would be similar to the fir trees that are proposed. And then the following conditions that were listed in the staff report last time: submit revised drawings if necessary prior to the board meeting, submit building permit application prior to construction, and then develop the project in compliance with all codes, conditions, requirements, plans, and payment of fees and taxes. This application will be, scheduled for the Board of Aldermen next Monday. Public hearing will be held, at that time too, for any additional comments from the neighbors.
Okay, thank you, David.
So, really, basically, the only thing that's changed is the landscaping.
Yes,
Yeah.
Kim's letter is not,
so
I'm all for this.
it was, I didn't say that, but we appreciate staff's efforts in
And he's not gonna say,
that, but
he's not gonna say one way or the other either. But, if it's impossible to turn it or lower it like I was talking about, or do anything like that, or you're just not gonna do it, whether it's impossible or not. These trees are excellent choices, I believe, for doing what you're trying to do.
yeah, and it's not on this plan, but there will be berming that goes up along in that buffer, so the trees will be on a berm, you just can't see
Yeah.
that in this
The,
landscape.
you know, everybody knows how big pin oaks get around here, and Doug firs will get even taller than that, you know, in maturity anyway.
Nobody will be listening.
So,
in.
what's that?
Nobody will be living in the house.
No, we won't see it. But it'll be taller than that 60-foot building.
Yeah,
And even if it was 40 foot, that would probably be enough driving from along the road there, but, so.
How tall is that building?
I did a little graphic, it's gonna be 31 feet tall.
Oh, is that all it is, 31?
Yeah, but it sits
I thought it was taller than that.
lower, it sits lower.
Yeah, your topo lines aren't on this plan.
Yeah, they're not on there, but there was, if you looked at the, back in the original staff report, and it's going to be hard to see, but there was kind of a profile where about the bottom, I wanna say 10 to 12 feet would be below a little ridge where the recycle drive goes. So you won't see all 30 feet or 31 feet of the building. You're only gonna see the top, the top,
12.
20 feet or so. And then there was a discussion about color too, maybe changing the color, but white's what was proposed. White's generally better anyway, because the darker colors, when the sun gets to them, they lose that color over time. And
The only place where you would need to change the color would be the front, because that's all that it will be seen now, if you're gonna do that.
Comments? Okay, I'd entertain a motion on this.
Move for approval of the, salt barn application as shown with the landscaping.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? That motion also carries. All right. Item 5, new business, 113 East Washington Street, Willie Stewart, minor site plan for canopies.
I just wanted to talk about the culvert. I'm like, the people who are getting the pond are not the people who are getting the water, and that's the issue, right?
Yep.
And if I had a kid, and, I'm like, oh, this is
David?
ready?
Yeah.
All right, this is Laura Stewart, who's the applicant on the last item on the agenda tonight. And I'm gonna go ahead and flip to the exhibit, because I think they look pretty good. I can pick the right one. Here we go. There we go. And it looks like we only have Ryan in the audience, so I'm not gonna share it. But Laura Stewart's here today, she's the owner of Video Fizz, and they're located at the east end of Washington Street, the corner building at Grove Street, 131 East Washington Street. They propose to install new canopies above the entry door on the front, which would be the north side of the building, it's the main entrance. And then there's a side door on Grove Street, and they would just do a small canopy over that, not along the whole length of the building. It's located in our downtown district. Anything in the downtown district, if it's a facade improvement or signage, exterior signage improvement's gotta go through a minor site plan with P and Z. It does not go to the Board of Aldermen, so anything voted on at this board is the final decision. The proposed canopies are very similar to what we see at the Bees Building next door. Got the black kind of square edges, so it should fit in one end of downtown to the other. Proposed sign is less than 10% of the facade of the building, so there's no problem there either. Staff recommends approval of the minor site plan with the condition that they get a sign permit before installation of the canopies. We thought one permit would be, we didn't want to require a building permit for the canopy plus a sign permit for the sign portion. Just one sign permit will cover installation of canopies too. So if anybody has questions, applicants in the audience?
Also, I don't know if we have to ask, I don't know what part of this we have to approve, but do you see the wood part that's coming off there? Like it doesn't go all the way
You're gonna repair
across.
that too?
Yeah, we're repairing all of that, and then everything that you see is cream is gonna be painted black, so that it all goes together. We've been there.
That'd be nice to know, so.
Yeah, we've been there 5.5 years, and no one knows we're even in town. And, we're getting ready to, sign well, it's already signed, but in November, Hallmark's gonna launch a major partnership with us, and there's gonna be 30,000 locations in the United States selling Video Fizz-enabled greeting cards. So we're very excited.
Yeah, congratulations.
You're right,
It's a long
I
time.
thought when you left, I thought it left. I drive by it all the
Well,
time.
we left it here, and we did it remote for a while, but, when, we did a trial with them February, March, April, and I really needed to be here for that. And then when I came back, I'm just like, why did we leave? So I've actually been living in the building since April. And then we waited for the kids to finish school, and now we're back. But I just think the whole thing needs cleaned up out on the front. And then we're doing a black door too, David.
Okay, so Laura, I went to the street view, it looks the building still looks just like this.
Uh-huh.
So everything cream, so the top band, middle band, you got the little vertical elements, all of that would be
That'll all
supposed to
be
be black?
The middle element, the top element is brick, and the middle element is, simple molding wood that was made to look like the brick, and it's raw. So I want that pulled off and stick, and so it'll look really nice.
So it might be worth in any, motion to include maybe some text that talks about modifying the cream on the facade to a black color. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, I didn't know I'm not sure what we're
Do
supposed
that.
to approve and what we're not.
We do that, does it limit her to that then, if she decides, I don't wanna go?
Yeah, but she's also the one who said that that's what they're gonna do too.
I think black, do you guys think black will look better? I think it'll look better.
Go with the
More modern, yeah.
Any other comments? Entertain a motion?
I make a motion to approve the Meyer site plan for, Video Fizz, to include staff comments and that all of the cream portions at the front of the building be painted black.
Second.
Did I cover all that?
You're way better at that than I am.
I know.
Got a motion and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, that also carries.
The people who are painting are different than the people who are doing, so do I need to ask them the people who are painting for a permit and the people who are doing?
No permit, occupation, and business license. Hey,
Okay,
here's the
then,
contract.
thank you.
All right. What is,
Thank you.
Yeah.
that's it. Any-
I see we started work on the a car wash.
Yep.
Permit was issued, it's been a couple of weeks, actually. It took a little while, because they needed to change ownership, they didn't own it. You go through the approval process, and then you strike the deal, and then you have to wait until you actually own it, you know.
See, Robertson's moving a lot of dirt back in that, whichever direction.
The Noah's Landing project.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Guess it's down that way, isn't it?
Tenth and Oak Ridge. And then it connects to 13th Street
Right.
as well.
Seen a lot of dump trucks heading towards 19th Street west by the church and the bank.
Probably
That's what,
Siler, yeah, probably Siler, some of the stuff they're doing. Unless you're seeing them go past.
They exit from that direction and head south on 33,
Okay,
and go down and take a left at the old, what is it, Westfall Houses.
okay.
you know, that's part of the rock quarry issue.
Not that I'm aware of. I heard a rumor that the rock quarry started, but there's no, yeah.
You take some. No.
Maybe that's why that rumor started, because they saw trucks coming east on 19th Street maybe, and just made an assumption.
And our, single-family permits are up over last year at this time, right? 47 for this year, 31 last year, am I not reading that right?
Yeah,
That's,
Oh,
52%.
yeah, yeah. But if you look in October and December,
December, we had,
yeah, that's 38 permits, so,
that's when they pulled Cottonwood,
Yeah,
yeah,
the
we'll
whole
see.
phase,
the whole thing, yeah.
Yeah, that whole phase.
December 31st, I think.
Now, they are really close to the last phase of Cottonwood.
Yeah, I know, I drive by it every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the widening is done and the striping is done, and it looks nice. It looks very nice, so.
Move for adjournment.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. One of you will be up here.